Welcome everyone on board. Everyone has got a chance to introduce themselves. Otherwise, you can help introduce. So we will just move on. Hope you all can see the screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am Charman, you're able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Share screen.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And teachers, we would also like to remind you, this is a 10 session program. I think all of you have received the message in our maths group, 1 to 5 maths group. It starts from 2nd May and it is a 5-day week program. This week it is only till Friday. Again in the next week it starts on Monday, right? So it starts at 9:30 and closes at 11 o'clock on every day. It's a 10 session program. This is for you all to just have an idea of how many sessions it is. Already it has been put up. Just we are reminding you, that's all. And Shobna ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
please show the sessions topics, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
That first PPT, what we have done. For each day, we have allotted certain topics based on your suggestions. Some of you have suggested the topics. So keeping that in mind, we have prepared the topics. If you want to have something more than this, please feel free to interact with us. We are ready to do a PPT or discuss on the same. Teachers, a kind request, let it be a complete interactive session and let it not be only monopoly.
Yes, ma'am. Can you see the agenda screen, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, I can see it. I think teachers, can you see?
Yes, ma'am. So these are the topics that will be discussed in the upcoming 10 sessions. So the first session we will be discussing about learning outcomes and how to write a lesson plan, the importance of lesson plan. The next session will be all about syllabus discussion. That will cover the mathematics syllabus across classes 1 to 5. Next, we will have teaching methodologies. What are the different methodologies to teach mathematics and how to apply them? Next will be experiential learning. So we all know that now schooling has become, is working towards the holistic development of children. So it has to be an experiential learning where they do and learn. So how to apply experiential learning in mathematics? Next, we have art integrated learning. So we all know that students have different areas of expertise. So we will be including all their skills and use it to learn mathematics. So that will come under art integrated learning. Next, we have higher order thinking skills. This is basically to promote the critical thinking and analytical skills of children, which is very important in mathematics. So here we have the higher order thinking skills and how to ask questions based on higher order thinking skills. Next, we have lab activity and fun activity in mathematics. So mathematics need not be always be a boring subject with only numbers in their notebooks. You can have lab activities, hands-on work, which gives them to visualize mathematics and use mathematics in a fun way to enrich their everyday work. Next, we have value-based questions, evaluation strategies and follow-up. You all know that education must end where it is beneficial to the society. Otherwise, education is of no use. So, how can mathematics be linked to the upliftment of society for to uplift the values and to help a child grow up and be a responsible citizen? So all those values along with mathematics will go in value-based education. We have value-based questions, evaluation strategies, and then follow up. Next comes the most important part, which is question paper setting, blueprint, and internal assessment. We all know that the purpose of all of us teaching there every day is at the end have an evaluation and evaluate the child on preset norms. So we have the do's and don'ts of question paper setting, the importance of having a blueprint so that the children are tested on a standardized test across the school. And we have internal assessment. So internal assessments are there so that the weightage of the final test is little bit lower and the everyday program of a child can be graded and followed. And last we have ancient Indian mathematics or the Vedic mathematics. So there we have all the sutras where you know that Indians were the first one to discover zero. We have a rich cultural heritage of mathematics. And so this area will be exposed so that this can be taken to the children where they can be proud of our ancient heritage of mathematics. So these are the 10 sessions. So apart from that, if you teachers feel you need any backup or help from us, we will be happy to include those topics. So we will be happy to take any suggestions from you for including any topic.
Any
Dear
suggestions,
teachers?
teachers, on these?
Yes, teachers. Yes. So maybe you can get back to us as the session goes.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
From the TFS.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, ma'am, some network issues here.
No problem, ma'am. No problem. They've joined, right?
Yes. So we will start with the first session. It is based on learning outcomes and the lesson plan. So first one. So when we say learning outcomes and lesson plan, so first we say why do we need to learn mathematics in the first place? Why should we have it as a subject for children? What is the importance of having mathematics? So when we see this, we set up the syllabus and the subject according to the curriculum. So what do you mean by curriculum? They say mathematics curriculum. The syllabus is set according to the curriculum. So what do you mean by curriculum? So we know that curriculum is a set of guidelines to help educators set up the content. So the education board has a set of guidelines which says at the end of grade 1 the students must be able to do all this in mathematics. At the end of grade 2 the children must have the following set of skills in mathematics. For every grade it sets a certain expectations that the child must be able to reach. So that is in a broader sense, that is the curriculum. So we set up the content and the methodologies so that all those objectives are met in a broader sense. So curriculum is a set of guidelines given by the government to help educators to set up the content. So learning objectives are formed from the curriculum. So it is always to reach the curriculum that the learning objectives are set. So what is expected out of the child? He must be able to add 2-digit numbers at the end of class 2. Then we set learning objectives. What do we set learning objectives? The child must be able to add 2-digit numbers. So according to the needs of the curriculum, we set the learning objectives. And after setting the learning objectives, then we set the methods. So what are the methods in which the learning objectives can be achieved? So basically curriculum says what must be taught to the children. What is the level where we should start and where we should stop. That broader area is set by the curriculum. And how it should be taught is decided by the teacher. So what, how and why something must be taught is the broader sense of the curriculum. So curriculum is set by the government and the education board, towards which all the schools and as teachers we participate to achieve the objectives of the curriculum. So why do we need mathematics as an important subject in the curriculum at the primary level? So we all know that mathematical is a subject which is very transversal in nature. What do you mean by transversal? It is there, it is evasive in all subjects, whatever subjects you take, be it physics or chemistry, accountancy, in higher classes, mathematics is transversal in nature. It comes in all the subjects. So mathematics is very important at the primary level. So it provides the foundation knowledge for all other subjects. And if you children who are good in mathematics, who work hard on mathematics, needless to say, they improve their mental power, reasoning ability, and mathematics, the mathematic literacy, as we say, like language literacy, mathematical literacy is also very important for individuals to lead a very constructive life, because mathematics is something that is practiced on a everyday basis. So mathematics and yes, ma'am.
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to get the feedback from the teachers, ma'am. Go to the previous slide. They might also have something to share with us, the importance of mathematics in the curriculum. Apart from these, if you have any other objectives, please share with us. Teachers, kindly share with us. We have listed only few. There are many.
Can I, Charu ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Yeah, I just said that primary stage is something very important. Having said that, children, what they are taught in the younger age, they carry throughout the rest of the lives. That is something, that is something very, very important.
Yes, ma'am. That is why it is the foundational knowledge. In the formative years, whatever we give them, that is only going to last until their end of their life. So formative years, curriculum, whatever is done here is very important in their life. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Teachers, anybody else? Feel free to interact. It's, of course, in the beginning itself, we said it is not only one talking and others listening. Of course, we also don't like that in our maths period. We wanted the children also to speak. This is definitely an interactive session. Please share your thoughts, teachers. Shall we move to the next?
Yes.
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, please.
actually the mathematics, the curriculum in the mathematics, it's develop a positive attitude, ma'am, towards the subjects. And also it's develop the students to apply in real life skills. In real
Very
life.
good, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Because in day to day, without
Day-to-day
mathematics, nothing can be done. So real life situations are based on mathematical skills only.
Yes,
Thank
that
you.
is so true, ma'am. Children who are good in mathematics always have a positive outlook for learning. That is very.
Ma'am?
Yeah, one. Yes, ma'am. Can I?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
She said, I
ma'am.
just, okay, ma'am.
From
Yes, Mahalakshmi, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am. From mathematics, the students learn how to solve. So from mathematics only, they are getting a solution, not only as a problem solving, but also in life also they are able to find out or understand how to solve a problem both in a theoretical as well as in our life.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes,
She's
ma'am.
quoting the words of
So true.
Ramanujam, if I'm right. Every equation has a solution and every problem has a solution. Right. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
I will just like to add on that. We are talking about curriculum, mathematics and all that. One important thing I would like to convey to all the teachers in the primary, especially for the maths department, is of course, we rush with our curriculum, syllabus and all that. One thing, an earnest request from my side, from all the teachers would be, maths teaching should be fueled purely by the love. purely by the love for the same, and the students should gear themselves for the task. That should be the thing. I think that is something very important. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Teachers, can we move on to the next one?
Next, we have need of mathematics in school curriculum. So we have the Kothari Commission's decision has made mathematics and science an integral part of the primary curriculum. And we all know the NCF, which is the National Curriculum Framework, that has stated that the main goal of mathematics education in schools must be the mathematization of the child's thought process. So recognition of learning objectives in the mathematics curriculum, and the curricular activities have to be provided to the students for realizing these learning objectives, and the learning objectives must primarily mathematize the child's thinking process. So what do we mean by the mathematization of the child's process? What does it mean? So mathematization means it is a process that happens when creating a mathematical model to create a real life situation. So what do you mean by that? So when we say we are teaching them addition, so 3 plus 2 is 5. So where do they use it in real life? So that is why we give something like word problems so that they can connect it to the real life. Now 3 apples plus 2 apples, 3 plus 2 is 5, so that he can use it in real life, and he knows what are the operations to be done. When he has a real life problem, he knows what is the operation that he needs to do to get the answer. Should he add? Should he subtract? Should he multiply? Should he divide? What are the operations he needs to do? I'm talking on a primary level. So that is the use of mathematics. That is he must be equipped with the mathematical model that can help him solve a real life situation. So using the cognitive competencies that are being given to him, he must be able to do it by arranging things, by reasoning, by distinguishing, and also it must help him to communicate. So what do you mean by mathematization? Horizontal mathematization process is to organize and solve a real life problem, to go from the real world, the world of symbols, to solve the issue. So he must use the appropriate operations to get his answer. Vertical mathematization is nothing but he is living in the mathematical world. He is just using the numbers and the mathematical terms to get the answer. So he must be thorough in vertical mathematization before he applies it to horizontal mathematization. So we all see here the key math vocabulary, which is addition and subtraction. So mostly in exams we see the children will do, supposing if we give a direct question, say 35 minus 12. I guess all the children in the class will do the problem. Suppose if we word the problem like take away 12 from 35, or if we say remove, what do you get when you remove 45 from 60? Then the children are confused. They see two numbers, they don't know whether to add or subtract or multiply or divide, because they don't know the English part of it. So I would like to hear feedback from all the teachers as to how the children are faring in the word problems, and are they comfortable in applying the concepts to the word problems?
Shobna ma'am, just a
Yes, ma'am.
small thing. Nowadays, we are switching over that word problems as applications in real life.
Applications, yes, ma'am. Applications in real life. So we'll just get a feedback on teachers whether the
Especially when it comes to these kind of problems, what should be added to some 25 to get 75? They really don't know what should be added. So simply they add. Simply
Yes.
they add, they look at the word add and they add 25 and 75 and they get 100 as the answer. So this is where we have to stress in the language part of it. So it is also very important for them to master over their language if they need to understand the mathematical language.
Yes, ma'am. So can any teachers give us a few feedbacks on how their children feel about doing the word problems? Are they well equipped to apply the concepts, or they prefer doing it when it is given directly? Can we have feedback from few teachers?
No, ma'am, they feel so difficult, ma'am, to do the word problem compared
yes.
to the normal problem, because after COVID, we affected a lot, because
Yes,
they
exactly.
are lagging in the language. If we are
Yes.
telling the meaning, they easily understand.
Because they are not
Yes.
able to
They
comprehend.
can't do by do us themselves.
Ah, they are
Yes,
not
yes,
able to comprehend the question.
yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Kalaranjani ma'am. So that is what we see. So that is what the mathematization process expects us to do. It expects us to first give them a vertical mathematization, which means make them confident in all the operations, and then bring about the horizontal mathematization, which means give them enough training with all the English language words which may make a different meaning in English, but when it comes to mathematics, it means a different meaning. I would like to quote one example here. So in class 2, we had asked the question of draw an example of a cylinder. So after distributing the paper, class child 2 came to me and said, "Ma'am, why have you put this as wrong?" I told her, "You have drawn a picture of a lady, so it's wrong. You should draw an example of a cylinder." She said, "No, ma'am, it's my mom." And because she always used to say, "In COVID, I'm working from home, and now I have become like a cylinder." So she has drawn a picture of a lady, and down she has written it as mom. And this figure and this shape has dash faces. She wrote one because her mom has one face. So face in English means something else, and face in mathematics means something else, isn't it? So that is where a class 2 child or class 1 child gets confused, because English words in English mean something else, and those same words, when it comes to mathematics, it means something else. We always find children who get confused between words like dividend and divisor, factors and multiples. I think class teachers of 4 and 5 will agree. The children often get confused when it comes to factors and multiples, HCF and LCM. So those are all the mathematical words which we must help them understand through the concepts. So now, after understanding the broad needs of the curriculum, which basically needs us to mathematize the thought process of the child, next we have to set the learning objectives which help us to achieve this mathematization process. So learning objectives. So what are the learning objectives? So learning objectives are brief statements that define the expected goals of the curriculum, course, lesson, or activity in terms of demonstrable skills acquired by students as a result of instruction. So this is the broader definition of learning objectives. So learning objective basically is, why do we walk into a class every day? What is the purpose that we walk into a class every day? What is the skill that we are going to impart for all the children on that particular day is the learning objective. So that must be very clear and planned in our mind, so that it is achieved on a everyday basis. So that means the learning objective. What is that we are going to teach the child on that particular day, on that particular period of 45 minutes or 40 minutes. That is the learning objective. So developing learning objectives. So why do we need to have a learning objective when we walk into a class? Why is it necessary? So as we all know, failing to plan is planning to fail. Without planning, we cannot do anything in the classroom. So developing learning objectives help us to articulate what students should be able to do as a result of instruction. What do we want them to do after the period gets over? What do we want them to understand? And what is the skill they need to show after we have spent the time in the classroom? So when we write the learning objectives in the lesson plan, it is usually the SW, they say SWBAT is the mnemonic. It is student will be able to. So when we write the learning objective, we always say the student will be able to, then include an action verb. For example, student will be able to arrange and then the skill, arrange 2-digit numbers in ascending order. The students will be able to add 2 numbers. The student will be able to subtract 2 numbers. The student will be able to differentiate between odd and even numbers. So this is the method in which we write the learning objective. It is
Shobna ma'am,
yes, ma'am.
just a minute. Teachers, I think all of you are handling primary mathematics, and we teach properties of addition and subtraction. Now, in one particular period, say for class 3, to discuss the properties of addition only, not subtraction, only the properties of subtraction or only the properties of addition in one particular period. At the end of the period, what will be the learning outcomes that you expect the children to have learned? Can anyone discuss about that? All of you would have done this. Take anyone, only either the properties of addition or the properties of subtraction. At the end of the period, what is the learning outcome that is expected from the children? Teachers, feel free to discuss.
Namaste, ma'am.
Learning
This is
outcome.
Shanmugha here.
Yes, ma'am. What is the learning
Yes,
outcome?
ma'am. Ma'am, at the end of the class, the child should have to know whatever number is there, when it added with 1, what will be the answer.
What will be the answer, ma'am?
Answer. When any
What will
number
be
is
the answer?
added,
I am asking what will be the answer now?
when a number is added with 1, we will get the next number.
Actually, it is not a property, ma'am. Is it a property?
Adding with 1 and
Additive.
0.
Additive property is addition of 0. Am I right, teachers? If I am wrong, please correct me.
Addition of 0, yes, ma'am. Adding with 0. And 3 properties will be there, no, ma'am. Adding with 0, adding with 1, and commutative. When we change the order of the number, also we have to.
Yes, ma'am. Adding to 1 is actually not a property. That is actually a rule that we follow. It doesn't come under the property.
The property. Okay, ma'am. Okay. Ma'am.
Yes.
Adding with 0.
Yes, of course, that is correct. So you're trying to make the child identify and analyze that any number added to 0 will result sum as the same number.
Same number.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Then, ma'am.
Then when we change the order of the number also, it comes as the same sum we will get. For example, 3 plus 2 and 2 plus 3. We will get the same sum. That is a property.
Yes, that is the property which the child will be able to explain with n number of examples.
Yes, ma'am.
Right,
Yes, ma'am.
So
yes,
this is the explaining part of it. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I think the 3rd grade will have these 3 property, I think so, ma'am. 0 and any other thing, ma'am?
You can say, ma'am. You can say. Any other? A plus B is equal to B plus A is of little higher order.
Higher order, and I
yes,
think
because we don't use variables.
Yes,
we don't use variables for class 3. Of course, this concept, when we teach it properly in class 3, it is useful for class 6, which is there using the variables.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yes, Shobna ma'am, you can continue.
Yes, ma'am. So when we are using, so for this example, which Shanmugha Priya ma'am said, we can say students will be able to identify and analyze the properties of addition when they are using 2 numbers. So that can be the statement that will be used as a learning objective. So you can write it like that. So action verbs must be something that is doable where we get a result. So you can use action verbs like explain, identify, analyze, list, etc. We will not be using vague verbs which does not give an outcome, which we cannot be checked, like the students can understand how to add. That is something we cannot check, isn't it? Whether each and every child can
It is
understand
not
or
measurable. It is
measurable.
not
Yes.
measurable. Understand means how much he has understood or he has understood.
Yes.
How
Or
much,
the student.
how much do they know? It is definitely not measurable. So that is why we avoid verbs using understand and know.
Yes. And this so good learning objectives will have clear action words and followed by the skill or ability that needs to be learned. So importance of effective learning objectives. So setting the learning objectives is of paramount importance because based on that only our lesson plan and our activities and everything are going to be planned. So, and it also determines what skill will be taught to the children in that particular session. So learning objectives are very important because they define and determine the learning outcome, the types of assessment and the learning activities that are going in for a course. And it also helps teachers select and organize course content and lesson properly. So this I think will be clear to everyone. So we can, after forming the learning objectives, what do we do? What do we do? We should always share the learning objective with the student. So mostly that we walk in and the student doesn't have a clue on what we are going to take for the today's class. So the most important thing is to convey the expectations to the child. Convey the expectation, what is required from the child to do in that particular session is very important. Supposing we say, even when we go today, we are going, for example, today we are going to do addition of two numbers. You are expected to do these things in class. The child feels more enthusiastic. He feels more responsible because there is a small task given to him and he feels responsible that he must complete it, isn't it? We must have always seen in the class, supposing during revision or something, we give him 4 problems and say, do this in today's class. We find they finish it quickly because they know it begins here, it ends there. So they feel they're responsible to do it. So in similarly, even when we are teaching every day, we have to convey to them the learning objective. So start with an introduction, have a warmer exercise, and then tell them today we will be learning this skill. Today you will be able to differentiate between odd and even numbers, which means in his mind, he will be ready to learn that skill. And he will be happy that he has learned that skill. Otherwise, we will teach odd numbers and even numbers and he will not even know what the teacher is going to. Okay, she's talking something about odd numbers. She's talking something about even numbers. What is that she is going to teach? What is that I'm going to learn and do by understanding this concept? So all those vagueness can be removed from the child's mind. So we must always prepare precise learning objectives, and by sharing the learning objective to the student with a warmer activity, with an introduction, the child can be an active partner of the learning activity. So when we tell him before, he is always interested to be an active partner. So what he does, he also shows interest in all the activities. He collaborates with the teacher and shows positive attitude towards learning. He tries to complete the tasks on time, and then we can always evaluate and assess today's learning outcome along with our peers in the classroom. For example, we are teaching the place value and face value. Then end of the class, because that is our set learning objective, we can test the child on that particular learning objective, whether the child has understood. We can also discuss with our peers, how did it go in your class? How did it go in your class? Did the child understand? So it is very important that we share the learning objective to the student. And how sharing the learning objective to the student helps from the teacher's perspective. The teacher knows specific learning objective for the specific topic. So a particular topic may include so many steps to be taught to the child. For example, when you want in the lower primary, you want the children to arrange 4 numbers in ascending and descending order. So can you start the class by saying, writing the heading, arrange numbers from ascending to descending order? No, because that learning objective needs something to be done before that, which is finding out the largest number, finding out the smallest number from a list of 4 numbers, isn't it? So first we give few exercises on finding the largest number. Then comes finding the smallest number. Then only comes ascending order and descending order, because they apply those concepts to this. So the teacher knows the learning objective for a specific topics. The learning objectives have to be broken down in smaller steps and then given, so that the moving from one topic to another topic is very seamless for the child. And then we can decide on the tasks and activity based on the topic. We can plan well to achieve the specific learning objective, and then execute plans very well on time, and then evaluate and assess the learning outcome. So when we plan well, the transition from one topic to another topic is also very seamless, and the child's understanding of the topic is also very good. So teachers, you have any feedback on this?
Yes, Shobna ma'am. In fact,
ma'am.
when you were talking about arranging in ascending and descending order, in fact, I think many of the teachers here also would agree. We asked them to tell a 4-digit number because that was already taught. So that learning outcome was also assessed. So now to evaluate whether the child is able to give a 4-digit number. So we ask the children to, at randomly, we ask them to give 4-digit number. So we list out all the 4-digit numbers. Say, for example, 4-digit number shared by some 5 or 6 students. From that set of 6 numbers, find the greatest, find the smallest, and then try to arrange the numbers in ascending and descending order. This is again to do a recap of what was the learning outcome that was expected when we taught them large numbers, in fact, 4-digit numbers. Yes, ma'am. Please continue.
Now, our sessions will be based, our learning objectives will be based on Bloom's taxonomy. We all know that. So we have a triangle of skills that are to be imparted, starting from lower level skills to higher level thinking skills. The lower level skills, as we all know, is just to remember, which is rote memory. So remember, and next level is understand, and then they apply. Whatever they have understood, they apply. Then the next skills comes analyze, evaluate, and then create. So these are the different levels of skills that our learning objectives must be able to give to the child. So our learning objectives and our activities must be set in a way so that all these skills, from the lower level skills, the skills move on to the higher level. So when we set our learning objectives, we can take the verbs for the learning objectives based on the skill which we are teaching to the students. For example, if we want to teach the skill of understanding, we have certain verbs which we can all use: applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating. So when you are teaching, distinguish the numbers, if they are odd or even, then you are testing their analyzing skill. So based on what is the skill you want to test, you can take your verbs and use it in your learning objective. So next comes the lesson plan. So you all know, as teachers, the most important thing to prepare our lesson plan well ahead. So why do we need to have a lesson plan? Why do we need to have a lesson plan? So before that, what is a lesson? I think we all need to know what is a lesson. So normally, if you ask a child what is a lesson, they will tell it is there in the textbook. So each lesson covers different topics. That is lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. So that is the lesson. But what is a lesson to a teacher when she's writing a lesson plan? A lesson is a period of instruction between the teacher and the learner, which is totally devoted to a prior identified, specified, and single limited title, skill, content, or idea. In short, lesson is the time duration we spend with the child. It can be 40 minutes or 45 minutes period in which we transact with the students. That duration or period of instruction is called as a lesson for the teacher. And how to spend that time with the students is the planning of that instruction time, which is called as the lesson plan. So we are not planning for the lesson which we are going to teach, but it is only the planning of the time or the instruction time between the teacher and the student, which we are actually doing. So what is the importance of the lesson plan? So I think we all have been writing lesson plans. I think all of us can pitch in a few sentences about the importance of lesson plan. Yes, Charu ma'am, can you just
Yes, ma'am. So each one, they have their own format of writing the lesson plans. Of course, they can share their way of writing the lesson plans with us. The first would be, of course, the
importance of lesson plan?
the period. Of course, this particular week, how many days, that is the duration. Yes, of course, that is that is a first column, right? Then followed by what is the topic that we are going to teach. Under that topic, what is the subtopic that we are going to cover that particular week or that particular day. If it is day-wise lesson plan, it is for that particular day. If it is week-wise lesson plan, it is that particular week. Then comes after the subtopic, it is can be said as subtopic or the content. Then what is the expected learning outcome? That is what we discussed already. From that particular subtopic, what do we expect the children to do at the end of this week after teaching that topic to the children? Then comes the methodology. Methodologies are quite different in mathematics, not like the other subjects where it used to be mostly demonstrative. Here, of course, it cannot be like that. Here, we cannot keep demonstrating only the topics. That is not possible in mathematics. And we adapt various methodologies to impart that particular skill to the child during that particular week. Then comes, of course, after imparting that knowledge, how are we going to assess? And of course, the teacher has to know what the child has adapted, or in fact, I can say what is the understanding level. Here I can use the word understanding. What is the understanding capacity? We grade them. We grade them using different assessments. After assessing, are we going to stop? No. We have to do the follow-up. Where does the child needs our help? Where should she improve? And where is she very well? Which part of the skill is she comfortable? Which part of the skill should be developed? So we definitely do the follow-up. The follow-up can be done in many ways, one-to-one basis, or it can be a class-wise basis, or a group of children. It can be done in any way. This is what we actually follow in the lesson plan. If you have something else, teachers, please do share with us. We will also like to hear from you if we have missed out on any. Yes, teachers.
Or a few words about why writing a lesson plan is very important.
Yes, anything. Actually, lesson plans should be written well in advance before teaching that lesson, not after teaching the lesson. Many a times teachers feel it is a very big burden for them to write the lesson plan. Already I know the content. I have been doing this for so many years. Then why should I again do the lesson plan?
Yes, teachers, any points you can explain on why we should write the lesson plan before?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
We get some more ideas in what are the ways we can be able to explain, be able to make students understand.
Very good.
And what is your lesson plan format, ma'am? Can you please share that also? If you have any other format apart from what I have shared, if so, we are ready to hear that. You're welcome, teachers, to share the format which you are following in your school also.
What are the headings under which you write the lesson plan? We will discuss it now. So as ma'am said, lesson plan is very important because to check whether to feel the pulse of the students, check whether they have understood the instruction that was imparted to them for that 40 minutes. So the lesson plan is very important so that we can plan effectively and spend the time so that it will benefit the children. So let us see on a broad sense, what are the steps involved in preparation of a lesson plan? As Charu ma'am said, there is no fixed template for writing a lesson plan. So each one of us follow a different lesson plan, but we will just look at the broader steps involved in preparation of a lesson plan. So what is the first thing we need to do when we write a lesson plan? We need to identify the learning objective, because that is the only reason we are walking inside a classroom, is to give a learning objective, is to teach a skill, a particular skill to the student for that period. So identify what is that you are going to teach for the student. So identification of learning objective is the number one requirement of writing the lesson plan, because everything follows based on what is the learning objective. Next one, sequencing of these activities and tasks. So sequencing of activities and tasks is very, very important, because when you confuse the child, then it is very difficult to undo. The child's mind is so fresh, and if you teach something out of sync, then it is very difficult to undo from the mind of the child. So sequencing of activities and tasks is very, very important. It helps the child to seamlessly follow the instruction and learn easily what is needed. And then determining appropriate instruction aids and methods. So supposing we want to teach time to the class. So if we had taken a few minutes and had the lesson plan ready, we would have walked inside the class with a clock. How many of you feel teaching time with a clock is a very good thing to do in class? Is it not? How many of you feel teaching time with the clock, children understand better instead of drawing it on the board and showing the hands on the board and erasing the hands and then drawing it here to different numbers, isn't it? So these are all the small things. All the instructional aids need not be very expensive items. All small things. So when we, instead of walking inside the class, opening the book and, oh, today I have to start the time chapter. So, but I don't have any instructional aids. Just draw the clock on the board and then tell this. That will put definitely students at a disadvantage, isn't it? Because it could be done so many times better when you actually have a clock. Similarly, when we are teaching the chapter calendar, you can walk in with an old calendar, show them, see, this is what you see in the house with all the weeks and then the numbers, the name of the month is written here, the name of the year is written here. So all those simple things around us can be used as an instructional aid. When we are teaching measurements, we can walk into the scale, a tape, whatever is used, and small measuring cups, the small cup in which they take medicine. So all those the children identify very well, and then they relate so much to the topic. And for every
this is because many of them will not be able to visualize what we are teaching, because they wouldn't have seen so many things what we are talking about. Suppose if we talk about non-standard measuring units, they wouldn't have seen. If you relate that to the visual aid, definitely it will be helpful for them. Because as a simple one, your mother measures rice. Your mother doesn't take up a measuring cup and she measures the rice. She uses the old traditional cup, which is being done in a very monotonized way. She takes the cup and she measures from that, and she knows what will be the quantity of that. So that those are non-standard units which we don't actually show the children how it is being used in our daily life. So you can bring that and show it to them and tell them this is what your mother does. And many a times she doesn't measure things. By her experience, she knows how much she has to add. So all these, definitely we have to interact with the children and make them understand. By years of experience, we will know by looking at the container how much it will be able to hold. What will be the capacity of that container? The child should be able to estimate, because this happens in many cases when we give them a small bowl and if we ask them what estimate the quantity of milk or juice it can hold. And suppose if it is 200 ml and we say, for instance, it is 2 liter. They look at the 2. This 2 is very small and they just write 2 liter. Of course, it definitely cannot hold 2 liter because the capacity of the bowl will be around some 200 to 250 ml only. So all these things they should be able to estimate when they visual. It is very difficult for them to visualize certain things. That is why we tell them to use those things which is available and which can be brought to the classroom. We can of course have a small bucket and small mug. How many mugs of water will fill this bucket? So they will come up with the wrong answers in the beginning, but after experimenting it, literally transferring water from the mug to the bucket, they will be able to estimate. So next time when they see a bigger bucket, they will be able to say definitely the more number of mugs than that was done in the classroom. Yes, ma'am, please.
Yes, ma'am. And also with shapes, I think when we go into the classroom to teach shapes, it's just not enough that you draw a cube and then say so much edges, corners, faces, curved face, flat face. So instead walk with some small cube or a pencil box for a cuboid, for a cylinder, a Pepsi can, a ball for sphere. So we can always see the difference, because when you draw the cone, they always think when you draw a straight line and a circle at the bottom, they think that is a straight edge of the cone. We have always seen children making mistakes. When you draw a cone with 2 straight lines, and when you ask them how many edges they have, they say 2 straight edges. That is because we have not shown them the object to visualize. So when we have a lesson plan in advance and when we prepare what topics we are going to show to the children, we can always walk into the class with appropriate instruction aids and methods that will help us to do the job very easily, to internalize the concept to the child. And it also helps in determining the evaluation process also. So this is what I have taught in the class today. So what are the questions I need to ask the children to check whether they have understood? Because if they have not understood, then maybe I need to repeat the concept again. Otherwise, there is no use in going to the next higher concept, isn't it? So all the planning and writing the lesson plan helps us to achieve all these objectives. So what are the key components of a lesson plan? So first is of course the general information, which is for what class we are going to do, for how many minutes. All that is the general information, and then the learning outcomes. So this is the most important part of the lesson plan. What is that I am going to teach in this particular session? Then learning materials. Is there anything I need to take? Is there any activity that I can do? For example, when we are teaching division, we can take, we usually take 24 pencils and then call 2 children and then distribute 2 pencils to each child. So we start off like that. Again, collect 24 pencils, distribute it to 3 children. Distribute it to 4 children equally, 5 children equally. So what happens when we distribute to 5 children equally? we have some pencils remaining. So what is that? That is the remainder. What every child has in her hand is the portion. So many things. So learning materials need not only be things, it can be the activities that you need to plan to introduce the day session to the children so that their understanding will be better instead of just going to the board and starting the division today, write the quotient and then write the remainder and say the number that comes in at the bottom is the remainder. So the child will not understand what is the quotient, what is the remainder, how is that when this number is divided. All he sees is only numbers. He will not understand the physical representation part of the mathematization process. So the mathematization process is the most important thing that we must be doing as maths teachers so that the child will be able to understand the concept better. Next is the lesson phases, learning activities, methods and techniques and tools to make learning more meaningful. And then always the timeline. How much time must be set for the warmer activity? We cannot just extend the warmer activity and use the precious time we have for instruction, isn't it? So all the timeline, warmer activity is this minutes, this much minutes, my assessment is going to be for this many minutes. All those, if we can plan approximately in advance, that will be of much help. And then differentiation. Differentiation is how do I make it more interesting for learners who are on the higher side? How do I make it more easy for learners who are low achievers? So in a classroom, we always have a heterogeneous mix of children from the high achievers to the low achievers. We must always have methods to methods or activities so that both the children understand what is going on in the class. So sometimes when we explain very difficult things, only the higher order, intelligent children, they raise their hands and yes, ma'am, I understood, and then we just go on. It should not be like that. There must be methods to differentiate both the extreme children and then give instructions so that both of them understand. Then we must have time for assessment and feedback. Feedback, did you understand what was done today in class? What did we do today in class? What did you learn today in class? When we ask those type of questions, the children would always tell, yes, today we learned the time. Today we learned how to tell time using 24 hours. Yes. So this is what we learned today. So we can give few examples and tell what is the time you wake up, what is the time you go and sleep. Can you now put it in a 24-hour clock? Example, when if you have a 24-hour clock, what would be the time you would go to sleep? So all those simple feedback questions to ensure the concept has reached the children. So a lesson plan must have time for all this, and a teacher must make sure that all this has happened during a class so that the learning objectives are met. So I have put here the lesson plan which we follow in our school. So we write it horizontally in a notebook. I have now put it in a PPT for you. This is for class 1. For example, this is what we do in a particular session. For example, for class, see, these are all the general information on top. Model lesson, which is for class 1 mathematics, the date on which you are having the class, number of period is 1, topics, numbers up to 20. So what is the content, number and number names? So this is the general topic for the month, which is that they have to learn numbers up to 20. So the content for the day would be number and number names from 1 to 9, which is quite easy because they would have already learned it in nursery. So teaching resources, we will just write down. So now next comes the important things to expected learning outcome. So there student will be able to understand and write numbers and their number names from 1 to 10. So after the session, this is what I expect them to do. Write numbers and number names from 1 to 9. So teaching methodology. So first, always start with a small activity. So if you want to start with an activity or you want to show something, depends on the content, what you want to teach for the day. So how to make, so we just start by saying how to maintain the Max notebook, open a fresh page, write today's date, and all that instruction has to be given to the child every day because they are in primary class. From at least till for classes 1, 2, 3, we generally start like that. And we can also see how for example, some dates are like 22 to 22. So some dates are very special with odd numbers, even numbers. We can also discuss that in class. I remember when we had 22 to 22, that day was a Tuesday. And so we just wrote the date and we just had a small talk on how everything is choose and what would be the next date when we would get like that. And instead of Tuesday, we all wrote it as a Tuesday in the Max notebook. So all small things to you can have fun with numbers when you start the class, and then you write the heading, all that, and then yes, ma'am.
Can I interrupt? Can I say?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, here teaching resources. So teaching resources, what do you refer that? Is it aids? Is it teaching aids?
Yes, ma'am. Teaching aids.
Yeah, in that case, one suggestion, please.
Yes, ma'am.
This resources, I mean, reference books is textbook, right?
Yes,
Teaching
ma'am.
aids, yeah, teaching aids. You can just make it like counting objects, abacus, flashcards.
Yes, ma'am. We have written here objects to count. Max textbook, Max notebook, and objects to count.
Yeah, that can be reference books. Aids can be objects, flashcards, abacus, and all that.
Yes, ma'am. What I would take for that particular class will be in the day's lesson.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So the teacher begins the, so I begin the class by drawing some beads on the board and asking the children to count and tell the number of beads. So which is always easy. We can just ask even a child to draw the bead and then say, how many beads have you drawn? So they just count it and tell, we can just count and ask the children to tell 1, 2, and then one more extra, 3, 4, and all that. Then we can show some more objects like color pencils and ask the, because they have their own color pencils, we can ask them to show, can you show me 2 color pencils? Can you show me 6 color pencils? Or can you take some color pencils and randomly ask a girl to hold few pencils and ask one more girl to count how much pencils she is showing. So all this we do between the numbers 1 to 9. And then we read and write the number names 1 to 9 on the board and make the children write it in their notebook. Now comes the writing part, which after this introduction activity and writing all the numbers, then we write the number names on the board and we make them write it in their notebooks so that they internalize the spelling and the concept. Now, after doing all this, again we want to check whether the children have understood. So now we ask the child to come and draw 5 or 6 beads or whatever number inside 9 on the board. And then the children copy the same thing in their notebook and write the number and the number name. So in the corner of the board, we have something called as the math wall. If you have a notice board in your class, you can use it. Or if you don't have any in your classroom, you can just have a small corner and write it as the math wall. And you can write the new words that the children have learned for that particular day there. So that as they say, this only will help them improve the mathematization process. For example, we would have taught them write the number names for the numerals. This is the question we would have written on top. But the children don't know what is the meaning of numerals. Isn't it? Though we would have explained, it is not enough that we tell it once because they're all little ones and they don't know the meaning of numbers, number names, numerals. So all these words which we have used for that particular session, you can write it in the corner of the board so that it becomes the math wall and it can remain there as long as you take the session so that all these words become very common for them. Otherwise, you see, you teach such words and give them in the question paper. The children will not be able to read the question paper at all. That is the single most difficult thing. As maths teachers, we find that children are not able to read the question paper. They just come to us and ask, ma'am, what should I do? Because the children are, if you write the heading as write the numerals or the number names, they don't understand. Because they are not being given enough exposure to all these words that are very unique to mathematics from the primary stage. So we have a small math wall in which we write these words. So the next session would be, the topic would be the same, learning. So next will be to teach the concept of 0 and 10. So 1 to 9 is over. So the next one session will be to teach 0 and 10, because then only follows from 11 to 20. So again, you have the resources, expected learning outcome. Students will be able to understand and write the numbers 0 and number 10. So teaching methodology. So here for today's teaching, we will be doing a small activity. So we have to introduce the concept of 0 to the children, which is very important. So how do we teach what is 0? So we can always hold 3 pencils in one hand and nothing in our other hand and ask, how many pencils do I have in this hand? How many pencils do I have in this hand? They always say nothing, ma'am. No pencils, ma'am. So we always try to show them what 0 means using different activities like this. So after this we say 0 means it is nothing. It is the absence of something. 0 means nothing is there. It is the absence of something. So how do you write 0? We just show them how to write 0. That is the notation of 0, which is the circle. After that comes 1, 2, 3. So that is how we teach them the number line. So this concept will be useful for them later when we teach them the number line using addition. Now, next, after that, we say, yesterday, what did we learn? After 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So what do you think after 9? It is 10. So we draw 9 objects on the board, and then we recapitulate what we had taught the previous day session. Then we add one more object and say, now how much is there? What does it come after 9? After 9, it makes 10. So what is the concept we need to teach the children? 9 plus 1 is 10 and 10 ones make 10. So we say 1, 1, 1. 10 ones are here. 10 1 objects are here, which makes together it makes 10. So this will form the basis of a place value also. So this is how we introduce the concept of 10. And then we teach them how to write 10. And again, they repeat writing from 0 to 10 in the class. And then evaluation strategy can be like, we can draw 8 objects and then we can ask them how many more should be here so that it makes 10. So that they draw 2 more, they count and they draw 2 more. Then we say, see 8 and then you drew 2 objects, it made 10. So this forms as the basis for addition and for subtraction, which will be followed in the later classes. So now for the math wall, we add words like 2 more words we add 0 and 10, because that is what we have learned for the day's class. So this is how I have taken a sample lesson plan from class 1. So this is how we write it, but we write it in a horizontal format. But for representation purposes, I have written it like this. So I think if teachers can have a takeaway, if they find something useful from this lesson plan, you can also share something, because this is only a 2-day process. You can also share something extra which you are using in your lesson plan right now, so that we can also take it to our students. I think that will be more beneficial. If you have any concepts which you are using in your lesson plan, teachers, please you can come up. Yes, Charmati ma'am. Ma'am, you're on mute.
Yes, ma'am. I think the first assignment could be like preparing a lesson plan on whatever topic they like or they would prefer doing it. For any class, for that matter, from class 1 to class 5, they would prepare a lesson plan and it can be sent to us through our mail. Ma'am, please share the mail ID.
Yes, ma'am. Can we share it in the WhatsApp group, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. That will do it. Teachers will do it in the WhatsApp group. We'll send the mail ID. You can share the lesson plans, whatever you are doing, any topic for that matter, from classes 1 to 5. This
5
will-
and it's only for one period.
Yes, just for one period.
One
Not for the
period.
whole.
Yes, a very simple one. It need not be very elaborate. Something very practical which you are doing in your school.
This will be our first assignment. Yes, ma'am. Teachers, any other doubts? You've come to the conclusion part of it.
Yes, ma'am. So as Ashi ma'am said, the role of a primary teacher is to productively navigate the curriculum effectively and set clear learning objectives so that the children will be able to achieve all the learning objectives which they are expected to for their level. And our job is only to have a well-designed lesson plan and to deliver the classroom instruction that helps children learn mathematics in a very joyful way. That's a small thing for you people to relax after hearing the session for